Chief, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
As we sit here, we've got 2 trials underway this week. People accused of shooting your officers, one of them fatally. We had an unusually high number of officer-involved shootings where officers felt that they were either threatened or those people were threatening others. What does that tell you?
Well, I mean, it tells you that, it tells me that we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do as a community, and we have some work to do as a police department. We are very focused on supporting both the Mangan family and the Leith family throughout the next several weeks, as both of these trials are expected to take multiple weeks. I visited yesterday with Jennifer and Brianne's father yesterday before jury selection. Haven't had an opportunity to get out to see the Mangans, but that's part of my plan the next couple of days, just to let them know that we're here for them, we support them, and that we're gonna stand hand in hand with them throughout this entire process.
Some of your officers, the FOP, have been critical of the prosecutor's office, the court system, that they feel like they're doing everything they can, and yet they're facing this, what they feel is a revolving door. Do you think that reforms need to be made at the city level, at the state level, to provide more support for officers?
Well, the criminal justice system as a whole can always get better. We should not stay stagnant. We're not some, just an object that just sits there. And so everybody has a responsibility to do their part and do it the best they can, with a focus squarely on with our community, and how we make it better for everybody in that community. But what I try to tell our officers is that we have to focus on what we can control. And what we control as law enforcement officers is enforcing the law fairly, constitutionally, and doing our job each and every day. The better we can do our job, sets up every other portion of the criminal justice system to be successful. So if we do our job right, the prosecutor's office can charge and convict, a judge, jury can convict, and we can move forward with that accountability piece. So I think sometimes we, as human beings, it's our nature to get caught up in the things that we can't control, which frustrates us. And so what my message consistently is to our officers, and has been over multiple years, is that we can only control our job. I think Bill Belichick, said that as a coach, If you're an offensive lineman, do your job. If you're a running back, do your job. Our job is to enforce the law and do so in a constitutional and fair way. And so that's what has to be our focus, is on doing our job the best we can do, because we're not perfect. We need to make sure that our cases are solid so that the prosecutor can file the charges. We need to make sure we're prepared for court and collect the right evidence so juries and judges can make those convictions.
Do you think, though, that the frustrations hamper efforts to retain and recruit?
I think that over the last 4 years, as we talked about yesterday in the press conference, has been the most challenging time in the history of law enforcement. Now, there's been other challenging times. However, this, in my opinion, the last 4 years, specifically in 2020 and 2021, the most challenging time. Not alone, we had George Floyd. We had to deal with racial reformation and calls for defunding the police and riots and all the civil unrest that we had, on top of a global pandemic. And I think our cops got a little exhausted during that. There was a lot of negative speak and a lot of negative talk directed to what they do. A lot of people who don't understand what they do, trying to tell them how to do their job and do it better. Now, granted, we work for the community. The only reason we exist is because they allow us to exist. And so what they want out of their police department is something that we have to listen to. However, what the cops were inundated with over those 2020, 2021, and to some extent 2022 is tough. It's tough to hear that people believe that everything you're doing is wrong, or that you have some ulterior motive to it. And then we see heroes like Bree Leith go toward that danger, lose her life. Tommy Mangan, just learning to be a police officer, out serving our community, shot in the throat, still recovering from that, and now going through this trial, him and his family. So that's tough for them. And it's not just been tough here, it's been tough in major cities all across the country. They're experiencing the same thing. But we're seeing that pendulum swing. We have a responsibility to be better and that's our goal, that's my goal, is for this police department to be better tomorrow than it is today, that our cops are the best trained, the best first responders that there can be in the country. That's our goal. But yeah, they feel that. When they see people that they've arrested out before sometimes they finish their paperwork, that's frustrating. But that's what I try to redirect them. Our job is not that. Our job is to enforce the law, make the impact we can make today. The rest of the system is responsible for what they do or don't do.
Going forward, what do you think right now is your biggest challenge?
Well, our biggest challenge is our retention and recruiting efforts as far as an internal thing. Externally, what is always at the top of our mind is building bridges of trust with the community and legitimacy. We know that when the community trusts us, they report crimes, they cooperate with our detectives, and we can solve more crimes and hold people accountable. That makes our communities safer. That makes our cops safer. That will continue to be at the top of the mind externally, is how we build better bridges. But internally, I think retaining the officers that we have, the amount of time, effort, and energy we've invested in our incumbent officers, it's important for us to find ways that we can to keep them. And then how do we get more people in the front door so that those same incumbent officers can move around the agency? That's one great thing about our police department, is there's an abundant amount of opportunities here. If you want to ride horses, you can ride horses. You want to fly a drone, you can fly a drone. You want to ride a motorcycle, you want to ride a bicycle, you want to be a beat cop, you want to be a homicide detective, all those things exist here. But in order for people to move throughout the agency, we have to have a consistent stream of new officers coming in the front door so people can move. And so that's a challenge for us.
Externally, you talked about building bridges. It must be frustrating to hear that there are people in this community and other communities who don't trust the police. How do you do a better job of building those bridges?
Well, we have to communicate, right? We have to get out there and meet people where they are, and they have to see us as part of the community. And, I think that the cops hear the vocal minority a lot of times when it comes to these issues of what people think about the police. But I just left a Coffee with a Cop event. There wasn't one person in that event that didn't say something nice about the police department. And when we go into restaurants, or I personally walk through Costco, I get nothing but compliments about our officers and about the work they do. Those are the voices that our cops don't hear, and that's unfortunate, because I think those voices represent a majority of the community. However, especially in historically, underserved communities, there is a history of negative interactions with law enforcement, negative interactions with government, and those things are generational and they're passed on from generation. And we have to recognize that it's in some communities, especially the African American community, it's going to be harder for us because of the historical inequities that have existed in our country, our state, and our city. You can't get around those. That is the truth. And so it's harder in those communities to make people believe in you, considering the history that we've had. So it's just something that we have to keep doing and working on. It's not a one and done, drop the flag, mission accomplished. It's an every interaction, everyday type of thing that we have to do. I've said this for years. Every time we encounter somebody is an opportunity to create an opinion. Either a positive one or a negative one. How are we treating them? How are we dealing with their particular issue? Unfortunately for policing, unlike other parts of public safety, like firefighting, a lot of time when we encounter someone, they're having a really bad day. And it's our job a lot of times to take away someone's freedom and take them to jail. That's never a positive experience. But there are so many other occasions where we can have positive impact, and we have to focus on those.
Last question. You talked about the creating efficiency with the department, making it more efficient. Can you expand on that a little bit, what you want to do there?
Well, we have to look at every single section within the agency. What are they doing? Is it a priority for us? Does it make sense to continue doing business that way? For example, we do a lot of things around here with paper still. This is an electronic world. Is there a way to make some of that more efficient for the people that work in our finance office, that they can do their job quicker, and then maybe they can focus on other things that are important to the agency. That's just one small example. But the other thing is, how do we deploy our officers throughout the city? Does our current 8.5-hour shift model still the appropriate model based on what's happening? So those are things we need to look at. Are there other ways that we can, how we assign new officers to shifts? What shift hours we work? Our geographic orientation of districts. All those things are things that every now and then we have to, dust off the playbook, look at it, and make changes. And I think that the same things that keep every chief up at night, all my predecessors, is the same things that keep me up at night. Is one, it's a great responsibility to these officers in the community to be sitting in this seat. And there's a lot of expectations, and a lot of people are counting on me to do what's necessary for them. And so, and then the safety of our officers and safety of our community members kept me up at night. So there's a lot of excitement, but there's also I know there's a lot of work to do, but I have a great team, and we have a great police department filled with great professional staff and police officers, and I couldn't be more proud to be their chief.